And today we are lucky enough to have one of the aspirants to answer the introduction. Then we proceed. Please welcome to our studios. Let's introduce ourselves.
Officially, I'm Samuel Owino Lali, but most people know me as Sammy Owino Kempes. Born in Nairobi, Kenya, in Ziwani Estate. I ended up playing for the estate team, Umeme. Then ended up being recruited and played for Luo Union. Then I played for Gor Mahia, then the national team. And then I ended up going to the US for further studies, where I did electrical engineering, stayed there for a while, and then started my academy and did all kinds of things over there. Yeah.
Welcome once again to TV47. You've been with us at Radio 47 several times. And how do you see the studio?
No, this is very impressive, actually. I was very impressed with the radio station, and now I'm impressed with this. This is first class.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Sammy, you've been in the States, and I think that is, if you compare our infrastructure in Kenya and the infrastructure in the States is more developed. I don't know, just for the benefit of our viewers, what have you picked in the States that you can bring to Kenya to help this game move to the next level?
To me, the biggest difference that I see between the States and here is just forethought in what they do. In other words, they plan, they think about it before they implement it. And that's the biggest difference that I see. I think a lot of times we don't think through the things we're doing, and sometimes we just implement them. And so if you had to ask me, that's the biggest difference.
There's a time you almost became the national team, youth team coach. And for me, I was so impressed because I knew that at least we'll get someone from the first world, if I may use that word, to come and impact that knowledge to our young team. What happened? And if in any case you're given an opportunity to run Kenyan football with the delegates, from the delegates, what will you do different to make sure that things happen? Because for me, and I said, and I think Shatta echoed it before you stepped in, the current regime cannot take Kenyan football to the next level.
Yeah, so when a while back, after I reached a certain point where I wanted to come back and give back to football in this country, my passion is in youth football, and my intent was to come and get involved in youth football. So through a friend of mine, I was introduced to Ghost Mule, and he in turn introduced me to Nick Mwendwa, and we talked about me getting involved with the under-17 national team, and I was very eager to get involved with that. And he suggested that instead of the under-17, for good reasons, that it made more sense for me to coach the under-20. So he asked me to present a proposal, which I did. Barry wrote me back, and then I presented my proposal, and then nothing happened beyond that.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Allow me to take you back before we come back and discuss if you've done your badges. All right. When you said you played for your estate team, for every youth growing up in Kenya, there's an estate team that you play for football. Yeah. It's like a culture,
Yes.
But then after that, you were scouted and played up to the national team. Then you went for further studies, and you said you started an academy there. What kept you glued in football? Because most of us play football to get out of a situation.
Yeah.
But you appeared to have left the situation when you went to the first world, But somehow you ended up starting an academy over there. And now you want to come back and bring change here.
Yeah.
What's this that has grounded you in football? Did you come from a footballing family, or what is it?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know why. It's I think the love for football, started when I was very young. So I don't know. I just remember my uncle used to be a football player, and I used to admire him as a football player. But I think it's just what we did when we grew up. You either did football or you did boxing, and there were, during that time there were a lot of top boxing players, boxers that came from Ziwani. But my love for football was just something I loved from a very early age. I don't have an explanation why, but I loved it, and I was fortunate enough to keep playing it, and then end up, building a successful business from it. So it's just something that was a passion of mine. I still love it. I think it's something I'm gonna probably love till I die, but it's a passion of mine that grew up with and still love. It's still a passion of mine.
Ah,
yeah.
So have you done your badges?
My what?
Your badges in terms of coaching now?
Yes. I am an A licensed USSF, which is USSF, which is equivalent to UEFA A license. So I'm an active coach. I've coached since my son played football in 2001. And I say this, people think being a good player means you're going to be a good coach, but it doesn't work that way. You have to go through the exercise of training yourself. When I look back at the kind of coach I was when I started, and then when I went through my training and got the experience, it's a big difference. And then you guys were talking about Eto.
Yes.
I think it's the same point. I think I'm not running for the federation because I was a former football player. It's a small part of being a successful, I think, administrator, but I'm running because I built all those experiences over time as an administrator. I think part of what you see is when you're a football player and you think you can come straight from football to administration, I think there can be a problem. Yeah.
Okay, before we move into the election chronicles, what do you think about our standards as a top coach in the US? What do you think about our coaching standards? Because for me, other than just kicking the ball on the pitch, you must have somebody who has the know-how out there to make sure that everything else works on the pitch. You've been here for some time. What do you think about our standards as far as coaching is concerned?
Are you talking about the national team or the club? Or
let's start with the local leagues, and then of course we move to the national team.
I think the local league, it all varies, right? There are some coaches clubs that have good coaches, and then there are some clubs that have, coaches that are not good. But I think overall our issue is just we don't run football in a professional manner. I don't want to name clubs just to be on the safe side, but I've seen top clubs that I've visited, and you look at their training and the way things are done, and you just realize the first thing you see for me when I even approach the fields, there's just lack of professionalism. And I think that runs across all facets of our football. And that to me is a big issue.
Okay. Yeah. You went to CAS with a case. I'd like you to shed more light about the case. Where has it reached? And of course, will it in any way interfere with the elections? Because the elections are set for the 7th of December. Tell us more about the case in Zurich.
Yeah, I'd like to, obviously I can't talk about all the details of the case, but what I can say is I think for me and for our team, I think what is important is free, fair, and credible elections, and just to make sure that going forward, even beyond the elections, that we don't have to deal with litigations and things like that. And so really, those are kind of the major reasons why. There's also the AFCON, obviously, where we feel like if we go this path that we're going, and there's dispute in the elections, which is most likely to happen, and there's good, reasons why the elections could be annulled, then that automatically affects AFCON. So, we feel like we want to avoid that, and so we think CAS is the way to go. And people say, oh, you interfere with the current process. My sense, my feeling is that expediency is never a good thing if it compromises, long-term stability. And my worry with the current path is that, we are risking being in a lot more trouble later on. Instead of taking a path that's going to bring stability, remove the issues of cases, court cases, and bring about to a free, fair, and credible election. Right now, if you talk to a lot of if you look at the process that is going on right now, it's not a good process. And from the very beginning, we had the issues of the independence of the electoral board. That was a big concern, and you can actually see how that's affecting this process. I've talked to a lot of clubs that are having tremendous issues with this process. Some of them are being asked to go. They're coming over to Nairobi, then they're going back, and then they get an email that says you need to be here the following morning. And so you're getting an email at 5 p.m. that tells you that you have to come back to Nairobi and address an issue. It's a really flawed process, and it's not a good one. It's not leading up to a fair election.
Credible election. Let's jump into your campaign. You've been on the road for some time now. Tell us something about the football family out there.
Yeah, for me, what encourages me is what I see when I go out and talk to club members or club officials, or however you want to call them. I think, you know, we tend to criticize, you know, our football, and there's some things wrong with it, but there's a lot to be said about the grassroots levels and people who are involved in clubs, because they go through a lot of sacrifices, personal, financial, and other means, just to be able to be involved in football. So there's a lot to be said about the commitment of people that are in football who love the game, and that's what gives me hope about Kenya football. I think if we get things right, a lot can be done. So there's a lot of good things that you see when you go to the grassroots.
All right. Sammy, you're on national TV. What is it that you want to do for Kenyan football? Let's say you're talking now to the delegates. Shatta and Arocho are one of the delegates, and of course the viewer is the delegate. What is this you'd like to tell these delegates who are going to elect the new office, and in any case trying to let them give you their vote?
Yeah, I think Kenya football, the number one problem that we have is lack of leadership at the top. I mean, if you don't have a leadership that has vision, that it loves the game, that understands what needs to be done to fix Kenyan football, we're going to have a problem. We don't have structures in our football because of it. We know we have issues of corruption, which we have having to deal with. I provide, you know, my experience. I'm an experienced player. Obviously, I am a former player. I've played at the highest level. I have been involved in the management of football very successfully, not just in terms of running the academy. I've been involved in building structures at the North Texas level. If you look at United States, you know, they had a point in time when they were kind of like Kenya in a way, but I was involved in the process of bringing structure to that. So I do have, you know, this experience that we need here, that ranges from building infrastructures to building facilities. I've developed facilities in the US, and I have this passion for football, and there's integrity, which I think all those things are things that are needed right now for our football to move forward.
All right, let us take a short commercial break. Then when we come back, you sample your feedback and also continue with the interview. Stay tuned.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
All right, welcome back to the Monday Blitz. You're here with Shatter Boy, Arocho, and leo tumekuwa lucky enough tuko na Kempes. Kama if you're joining us now, umekuwa kipito wa dunia, tumediscuss mpira ya Europe, sasa tuko mpira ya Kenya. Kuna shida mingi sana kwa mpira ya Kenya. Usishangae kwa nini nimeanza kuongea Kiswahili, because you know they say politics is very local. You know, it's very local.
The local solution.
Yes, it's very local.
In the local language.
Yes. Kempes, my question to you would be about the player, the footballer.
Yeah.
You know, because and something else that you guys need to be very alert to is that someone might take you in rounds, you discuss them, and you forget to talk to the player and the delegate of what you intend to do for them. Yeah. You know, for the longest time in Kenya, there has been a player issue where players don't feel represented. There is a federation, there is KEFWA that is supposed to deal with the welfare of the footballer. There is the federation as well that needs to protect the footballers. But we've seen instances where footballers get injured, nobody takes care of them. There is a pay bill out here, we have to do a fundraising for the players. There are so very many. There's a word you said that football here is not being run professionally. You know. Now to the footballer, what promise do you have?
Yeah, I think it comes back again to how we run our football, and so we need to make sure that we have a system where the interest of the football player is also protected, and we're able to put in place things that actually protect the player on a contractual basis as well, as in terms of the payment, because there's a lot of issues we've had where players are not paid on time and things like of that nature.
Yes.
Those are things that we need to sit down with clubs and kind of iron out. So there's a certain level of we need to bring professionalism back into football, and players need to be protected and have contracts and make sure that they cannot just be discarded like that. So there's that level of protection. But I think there's also a level of education, that awareness that has to happen. I always say that when I was playing football, I was always made aware of the fact that my career will be over. So you can never underestimate the importance of awareness. I think we can come up with programs, and I look at player welfare in two different forms. One is for players that are still playing, and one is for players that are done with playing. And so I think for players that are playing, we can, number one, make them aware of the importance of having to prepare for retirement. We can help them with, we can start a savings account, a retirement savings account. We can educate them on, we can do classes on education. We have, financial, planning. We can educate them on, prepare them on other business, tie them up to business trainings as well. And there's also other issues that I know we've talked about in terms of mental health of players, because players go through a lot. So we need to have an office that specifically deals with issues of player that are related to those kinds of things. And then for retired players, I think it's important for us to recognize those retired players. We can, number one, do a recognition for them that we do every so often. And then we can, again, depending on your level of play, we can start pension plans for some of them, retired players. But there has to be a definition of who actually gets that, because realistically you're not going to have all that money to do it. So we can start pension plans for people like that. Retired players, for me, if you played for the national team to some degree, you should be able to get to a stadium and just be able to get into any games you want to. So there's those things that we have to, but again, then there's the education of the retired players in terms of opportunities. We have opportunities for coaching, for administration that we can give them, but it comes with training. You can't just be a retired player and be thrown into a position. So we have to, give them the opportunity to educate themselves so that they can be good coaches and get jobs, so that they can be administrators and get administration jobs within the federation.
Oh, Kempes, another very important aspect of the game is that financial backing. Sponsorship in this country is quite rare. I don't know if with your experience or with your contacts out there, you can be able to bring in guys who can help the game. We used to have Super Sport doing a very good job in Kenya. Multi-internationals. For me, I think multi-internationals are the way to go. Because when we had Super Sport, a lot of money was coming in, the players were exposed, and then money could trickle down, because all you're saying can only work if there's money. Do you think that you have that kind of network or kind of an opportunity that you have out there? Do you think we can convert these games with the people coming in? Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Everything starts with money, and everything I do, I always think in terms of how can we get the resources to be able to make it happen. So without money, we can't get anything done. And totally agree with you that we have to expand our sources of revenue beyond our borders. I think we can expand it within Kenya, but we can also expand it beyond Kenya. And I do have relationship with people in Germany and the US that we can bring in international organizations. Like, for example, a while back, there was an international organization that used to support women football. I believe that we can go to the international organizations like those and have them support our football as well. So there's an array of we can expand our sources of revenues, but that's only going to happen if we get our act together. So unless we get our act together to where we actually improve our brand, like the federation brand, our clubs and all that, it's going to be very difficult. You can't just go and tell people, give me money. I think it's a partnership where you are providing money to somebody, and in exchange you are telling them you're going to get this in return. I think if we stop thinking in terms of sponsorship and move to partnerships, I think we are more likely to bring in more revenue. But football is a business. I've always looked at it that way. And for me, we need to do a better job building the brand of football in this country if we want to get more money. So we got to get our act together. We got to create a brand that people want to associate with. I believe we can do that with good leadership. And with that, we can not only get money locally, but we can go beyond Kenya and get money from other places as well.
You've said all this can happen once we get our act together. In the recent past, Kenyan football has been played more in boardrooms than on the pitch. Yeah. What promise do you have that if or when the delegates and all stakeholders give you this mandate and you take the federation, what is it that you will do different that ensures Kenyan football is played on the pitch? As opposed to currently, that's why I'm saying it's being played in boardrooms, and in courts. Yeah. What is this that you will do different that might make that happen?
I always say that we all have a past. We have a history. You can look at your past, and it's always the best predictor of what you can do in the future. I do have a past, and my past says that I can build, I can build good things. I've been involved in, if you look at my past where I am, I have one of the top academies. It was rated the #1 academy in North Texas, which is the largest, one of the two largest football areas in the whole of United States. I've built facilities like you don't have here. I've built structures. I've been involved in the development of football in the United States, to where, you know, if you go to the North Texas, they will tell you about me. So I have a past and a history, and also I have integrity. If you go ask people there, how has Sammy, what do you think of Sammy in terms of integrity? I think that's the one quality that people will say that I have. And so for me, the best prediction of how you're gonna do things is what you've done. And I think my background is pretty good in that regard. Then, you know, I have a vision for this country's football. And if a leadership, you don't have a vision, then that's a problem. You have a vision for football, which includes, you know, building everything from the grassroots. So the foundation of our football will start from the grassroots. Every aspect of our football we have to look at, whether it's academy football, or it's women's football, or it's the referee education, coaching education. So I have these different aspects of our football that needs to have structures or infrastructures that go all the way back to the grassroots, and a pathway is created from that point to the national level. For example, if you have a player in, let's say, Bomet, or if you have a player in Vihiga, that player needs to have the same opportunity to be picked to play at the national team level, whether he's a youth player or she's a youth player, or a national or a senior player, to be able to play for the national team. So you have to have these structures that create that path, whether you're a coach or a player or a referee, to be able to get to the highest possible level. We're lacking structures, we're lacking vision, leadership with vision, we're lacking leadership with integrity, and that's what we need to bring, and that's what I bring to the table.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There is a clip that we're supposed to play, but before we play that clip, you've mentioned, let me ask you about academies, because you've said you have an academy. In Kenya, I did a punch the other day, Aroch, if you remember, and I spoke about academies. In Kenya, everyone thinks they can start an academy. You know, what does it entail to start a proper academy?
You know, I say this, there's nothing wrong in starting any academy. I think as long as you have an academy and kids are playing, I think it's always a good thing. But there's proper academy. It means that there's a level of professionalism and understanding of all the things that's needed to develop a player are incorporated in that, and understanding, having the qualified coaches involved.
Yes.
And just having the whole structure in place. You know, I was an Olympic Youth Center. Kenya used to have a very good academy, by the way, called Olympic Youth Center, and it was actually started by the Germans in collaboration with the government of Kenya. So I had an idea of what a good academy was, and it was fantastic. And you know, you're right, there are different levels of academy, but for me, they are all good. But we really do need to start true academies that will truly develop players to the level that we need. I know I've heard Arocho say multiple times, and he gets criticized for it, that we don't have top level players. And the reality is that is true. For me, I think we do have a shortage of top level players, and we need to be able to create academies that, not that they're players, they're good players, but I think we're lacking the academy infrastructure that can help us produce top players that can play at the highest level. And I think it's, the argument is pretty obvious. If you look at, I always ask this question, how many of our players have gone and played at the highest level in the world since independence? Think about that. And that tells you everything. I think we can do better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very true, we can do better. Let's listen to one of the aspirants as well, then we come back as we wind up with Kempes.
We demand the following. Number one, the electoral board to be the oversight in the electoral process and appoint either IEBC or the Law Society of Kenya to conduct the elections exercise with immediate effect. To immediately and transparently notify the members and stakeholders on any changes or updates made to the voters' register and adherence to the Sports Act 2013. The FKF president Nicholas Mwendwa, and the General Secretary, Barry Otieno, be completely removed from participating in any role at the Electoral Board, and we call upon the DCI and the EAC to investigate their conduct immediately. The Ministry, point number 4, the Ministry of Sports immediately undertakes to change the location of the FKF Electoral Board from Kandanda House, as there has already been a deliberate attempt to sabotage the entire process due to the current location.
All right, welcome back, Kempes. Your opinion on the same as now we start winding up.
Yeah, before I say that, the cameraman needs to get fired. How come I never?
No, it's because you're here. No, they cut the clip because they knew you're here. You will. We
need to get rid of that guy. So I need to know who the person is. It's unbelievable.
You're here. Yeah.
But anyway, I think that was our effort to be able to put pressure to bear to make people understand that, you know, there's the federation, but there's all these other people who want to do right by football, and we all got together to make that point. And so, you know, it's just us getting together and putting pressure to bear. Yeah.
All right, Arocho.
Well, basically, mine is just to wish you all the best, and I believe that it's a concerted effort to make sure that this game is back to where you people left it, because, well, I didn't have the pleasure to watch you, but I'm made to understand that he was a fantastic player at Gor Mahia and at Harambee Stars. So if you know, these days you cannot even pick a player who played for Harambee Stars 2 years ago, but we can still pick you 30, 40 years down the lane. So basically, I'm supporting the concerted effort to make sure that the game is back where it belongs. And I believe that God cannot be that unfair to us. We've gone to the lowest, if you ask me, as far as football is concerned. Nobody wants to hear, the corporate world, nobody wants to hear about this game because of the kind of mischief that is in the game. All the best, and I believe that come 8th of December, Kenya will have a new face as far as the game is concerned.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger.
Yes. And perhaps your parting shot?
Yeah, my parting shot is that, you know, there's a lot of hopelessness in regards to Kenyan football. I'm very hopeful. I always believe that, you know, it is people who messed up our football. It is people who can build it up. And I'm very hopeful, and we can take football with the right people, or the right people at the top. We can take football from where it is now to be one of the top in the continent. I believe that.
Wow.
Before we let you go, I'm sure you have your manifesto, or maybe anyone wants to get interactive with you. How do they get in touch? You have a social media handles?
Yeah, we do have a website. Everything is Sammy Owino Kempes. So you just do a search for Sammy Owino Kempes, and it's going to take you to all the social media sites that you need to go related to me.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
for coming. Yeah. Tumekurausha sana.
Yeah, nashukuru.
But hii mpira ya Kenya inahitaji kurauka sana na sana, because there is a lot that needs to be done.
Kweli.
Si ndio?
Nashukuru bana.
Thank you very much for coming.
Okay.
All right guys, tumekuwa na Kempes, mmesikiliza. If you didn't know, elections zinakuja bana. Mwanze kupiga kelele kwa mtaani, mwambie delegates wenyu mkipiga kura tunataka change, si ndio?